What's happening, everybody? On today's show, recapping a very eventful first day of the early signing period. We'll tell you who were the biggest winners of the day, and we will go around the conference as LSU defensive back Eli Ricks is heading to Alabama. Florida quarterback Emory Jones, he hits the transfer portal. Arkansas safety Jalen Catalon, he's coming back for another year, and much, much more. Locked on SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what is happening, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. Great to have you guys along. Today's episode is brought to you by NetSuite. NetSuite is the #1 cloud financial system to power your growth. Head to netsuite.com/LockedOnNCAA for special end-of-year financing on the #1 financial system for growing businesses. I'm Chris Gordy. Thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Remember, Locked On SEC is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube and at LockedOnSEC.com. We're going to go around the conference in the third segment today. Segments 1 and 2, we're going to touch on recapping what went down on the first day of the early national signing period yesterday. It was a very busy day for the early signing period. Many schools across the SEC were big winners. And we're going to use the 24/7 sports rankings here because they do the composite. Look, I like Rivals. I like several of the other sites, not so much ESPN. I don't think they have the best resources when it comes to recruiting, but 24/7 sports is what we'll be using here. So if you're going, oh, that's not what my schools rank, they're ranked this, we're going on the 24/7 sports rankings. I think they're probably the most comprehensive, and they use the composite rankings. And by the way, by the time you're listening to the show, some of these rankings could have changed because there are still names coming in. So all that disclaimer out of the way, we start with #1, Texas A&M. After an action-filled first day of the early signing period, Texas A&M now has the nation's #1 recruiting class, according to 24/7 Sports. Entering Wednesday, the Aggies had the #3 class, but that changed with a monster day. Jimbo Fisher and company, they added 4 top 100 commitments on Wednesday alone, giving the Aggies a big close. Offensive lineman Cam Dewberry, tight end Jake Johnson, defensive end Eli White, and defensive end Anthony Lucas to go along with defensive back Marcus Groves Killebrew. Those guys all committed on Wednesday, and that was big enough to put the Aggies at #1. The class is highlighted by 3 5-star signees as well. Big defensive lineman Walter Nolan. One side has him as the #1 player in the country. Another one has him as the #2 player in the country. He is a stud. Defensive lineman Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy and quarterback Connor Weigman. All those guys signed on the dotted line. 5-star wide receiver Evan Stewart still committed to A&M. We just haven't gotten his signature in just yet as of this recording, but sounds like he is a lock. It could get better as well. As Jimbo Fisher said, A&M is still waiting on 5 or 6 guys who have yet to sign. Craziness. One other thing of note, Jake Johnson, the tight end, #1 tight end in the country, he is the brother of former LSU quarterback Max Johnson, and reports say Max is expected to follow his brother to Aggie land. So Jimbo Fisher, I don't know what's in the water there in College Station, what kind of NIL deals they are giving away, but man, what a massive week to be an Aggie fan, and we'll see if all this leads to ultimately a championship. #2 and 3, I put Alabama and Georgia together in this slot. No offense to Alabama or Georgia. We're just kind of accustomed to seeing them up here at the top. Still stellar classes for both schools. Alabama's class is highlighted by edge rusher Jeremiah Alexander, quarterback Ty Simpson, running back Emmanuel Henderson. They did pick up 2 Louisiana wide receivers this week in Shaz Preston and Aaron Anderson. Mississippi D lineman Jaheim Otis as well. Yet another stellar class for Nick Saban and crew. 24 commits and still working on a few more. And, of course, last night picked up Eli Ricks from LSU. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Meanwhile, Georgia's class is headlined by 5-star athlete Malachi Starks, cornerback Jaheim Singletary, edge rusher Marvin Jones Jr. They got in yesterday. D-lineman Michael Williams, defensive back Dalen Everett. Kirby Smart crew. They are just like Alabama. They don't rebuild, they reload, and they certainly have reloaded. This class should be just about filled with 26 commits. We'll see if they rework things and add another name in there. And, of course, transfer portal open as well. Coming in at number 11 after it was the Kentucky Wildcats. Look, after day one, the fourth best class in the SEC is Kentucky. Mark Stoops and his staff did a heck of a job. The big one Kentucky was able to wrap up yesterday evening. Big five-star offensive tackle Keonta Goodwin. He held a press conference earlier in the day, only to announce he would not be committing yesterday. He was down to Michigan State and Kentucky reportedly, only to later in the day end up confirming his commitment to Kentucky. It's a big get for the Wildcats. They always have good offensive linemen. As you know, Darian Kennard this year was fantastic. They brought in the LSU transfer, Dan Rosenthal, who played well for them. Some other big names in this class include wide receiver Barrion Brown and edge rusher Tyrese Fearbury, as well as linebacker Keaton Wade. We know Mark Stoops always looking for those next big-time defensive players. All those guys are in, 20 commits, and they still have room for a few more. So keep an eye on Kentucky. How about Missouri coming at number 12? Really strong class for Eli Drinkwitz. And the big one they signed, sealed, and delivered yesterday was the number one wide receiver in the country, Luther Burden, from the Missouri area. They also added quarterback Sam Horn. He's a 4-star. Running back Tavoris Jones is a 4-star as well. 6 4-stars in this group, along with the 5-star in Burden. 15 signed commits, still room to add. 6 of those prospects from the state of Missouri. Eli Drinkwitz said it is a pretty special group on offense. We'll see if they respond, scoring a lot of points next year for the Tigers. Coming in at number 13, it is Tennessee. 20 kids signed yesterday with the Vols, led by D lineman Tyree West, offensive lineman Addison Nichols, and quarterback Taven Jackson. Josh Heupel said yesterday that recruiting in the state was a little bit harder than he thought. So there was just so much negativity that had been built up over the past year and a half, but they finished strong. They added 2 in-state prospects and wide receiver Cameron Miller and linebacker Elijah Herring. And with the news that Hendon Hooker is coming back next year at quarterback, the Vols are really starting to lay the groundwork for a bright future. So excited to see what Tennessee is going to look like next year and in the future. Coming in at number 14, how about the Auburn Tigers? Man, what a rebound for Brian Harsin and his staff. It was a rough couple of weeks there with the Iron Bowl collapse. Then you lose Bo Nix to the transfer portal. Then you lose Tank Bigsby to the portal, only to come back and convince him to stay. And then this week, that misfortune turned as Harsin and crew really started to clean up on the recruiting trail. They added 4-star linebacker Robert Woodyard yesterday. Then they flipped defensive backs Jadarian Rim. They got him from LSU. They got another DB in Austin Osbury out of Louisiana. 8 4-stars in this group. 7 commitments this week alone. A strong finish for Brian Harsin's group and still some room to add more. Also, shout out to our buddy Trevon Reed, who really helped out on the recruiting visits, according to a few of the things I was reading. He was on some of those trips with the crews, trying to lock down some kids. No better group to or guys to bring than some former Auburn Tigers to try to get guys to come be Auburn Tigers. So really big shout out to Brian Harsin and the Auburn Tigers. I'm finishing strong there. All right, thank you guys again for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Coming up next, we will do the next 7 teams in the rankings when it comes to the early signing period yesterday. Guys, this is it. The putt to win the tournament. If you sink it, the championship is yours, but on your backswing, your hat falls over your eyes. Is this how you're running your business? Poor visibility because you're still relying on spreadsheets and outdated finance software. If you want to see the full picture for your business, you need to upgrade to NetSuite by Oracle. It's NetSuite. Over 27,000 businesses are already using NetSuite, and right now through the end of the year, NetSuite is offering a one-of-a-kind financing program to those of you ready to upgrade at netsuite.com/lockedonncaa. NetSuite is the #1 cloud financial system to power your growth. They visibility and control your financials. You got inventory, HR, planning, budgeting, and more. NetSuite is everything you need to grow your business all in one place. Head over to netsuite.com/lockedonncaa. They got special end-of-year financing on the #1 financial system for growing businesses, netsuite.com/lockedonncaa. We're along here, Locked On SEC. Appreciate you guys for listening and continuing on recapping everything that went down yesterday with the early signing period. And we jump right back into it. We last left off with number 14, Auburn. Then we go to number 18, LSU. You know, look, usually when you make a coaching change, the transition recruiting class is going to suffer. But Brian Kelly really hit the ground running with LSU. He wrapped up 13 signees yesterday, and they've got their eye on the other signing day coming up in February and looking at the transfer portal as well. The big names in this class, 5-star quarterback Walker Howard, 5-star O-lineman Will Campbell. They also added 4-star D-lineman Quincy Wiggins yesterday, safety Jordan Allen, D-lineman Tyji Hill, also added cornerback LaTerrence Welch, who was really eyeing Arkansas until the final hours. They also added tight end Mason Taylor. You may want to keep an eye on him. He is the son of former NFL stud Jason Taylor. So that's one to watch. But a real chance for LSU to add to this group. And when it's all said and done, probably going to finish in the top 15. Maybe could sneak up to 10 or 11 when everything is done early next year. But a nice job on his first early signing day by Brian Kelly. Coming at number 19, it's the Arkansas Razorbacks. Sam Pittman's crew did a nice job addressing a lot of needs in this class. You lose Treylon Burks to the draft, well, you add 4-star receiver Isaiah Sategna right from the Fayetteville area in your backyard. They also got a great offensive line haul with Andrew Chambly, Imarian Harris, Patrick Kutas. Sam Pittman, he credited the state of Arkansas having a real talent-rich group this year. And being able to keep a lot of those kids in state was huge. Pittman also credited his assistants Scott Fountain, Barry Odom, and Kendall Briles for helping solidify this class. Coming in at number 22, it is Mississippi State, a solid group headed to Starkville, led by wide receiver Marquez Dortch, quarterback Braden Locke, D lineman Travion Williams. They also added O-lineman Percy Lewis, linebacker Avery Sledge. Could combine those and get Percy Sledge. Mike Leach, he said he thinks they are off to a good start with this class. He bragged about the quarterback Locke, saying the ball just explodes off his hands. He also said they're adding some big JUCO guys, and he said that's big because they will contribute very early on. Out of the 18 players who signed Wednesday, 12 of them from the state of Mississippi. Mike Leach said that was the Bulldogs' biggest emphasis with this class. Coming in at number 23, it's the South Carolina Gamecocks. And look, Shane Beamer's exciting class took a big-time hit yesterday when 4-star linebacker commit Jayshawn Barham, he flipped and then ended up signing with Maryland and not the Gamecocks. Beamer said yesterday he was not surprised. He thought it was, a very good likelihood that it could happen. He was hearing from certain people. They were able to lock up several 4-stars in this class, though. Safety Keenan Nelson, quarterback Braden Davis, linebacker Stone Blanton. It's a great name for the SEC. Losing a big-time recruit in this class is a bummer, but look, don't hang your head because you still put together a nice class and you're adding Spencer Rattler at quarterback. That's as big as a move as any they could have made in this recruiting class. So I think the arrow's still pointing upward for Shane Beamer at South Carolina. They got to build off of this year heading into next year. Number 24 yesterday, Ole Miss. I said on yesterday's show, I thought Ole Miss's class was ranked a little low, and Lane Kiffin and crew, they went to work yesterday. The Rebels signed 16 players, including 5 4-star players. Kiffin, talking with the media yesterday, said, we were very picky with this class. He said, I think we had high standards. We didn't reach. And he said, I'm excited about the guys that came. With transfers and portal guys, that all will be going on for a while, all the way through when we start school in January. He said the biggest names in the group are linebacker Jerron Willis, D-lineman Xavier Harris, and safety Taylor Groves. I'd expect a handful of guys in the transfer portal to find their way to Ole Miss in the coming weeks. Lane Kiffin is not done. Coming in at number 37, it's the Vanderbilt Commodores. Look, Clark Lee did some work with this class. He added a quarterback in A.J. Swan, added some pieces on that defensive line, like edge rusher Darren Agu, linebacker Langston Patterson, cornerback Quantavis Gaskins. And I thought it was interesting here. Clark Lee talked with the media yesterday. He said, we have the makings of something special here. He said, it's not just going to be for everybody, which, it's Vanderbilt. There's a certain level of standard you have to meet. You got to meet a certain GPA and all that. He said, today is certainly a day of celebration, and it is a great day for the future of our program. And yet it's all about our effort in getting these guys in this class ready to play next fall and then growing them throughout the course of their career here. So, look, it was a rough year for Vandy. I got to say, the arrows can only point upward, right? I mean, it was so bad this year. So congrats to Clark Lee with Vandy. We'll see if they finish in the top 40 when it's all said and done. Lastly, rounding out this class, Florida coming in at number 50. Now, this is actually better than where Florida was earlier this week, down in the 70s. Billy Napier signed 9 guys yesterday, and he really made the most out of it. He picked up a big-time 5-star safety in Kamari Wilson from the IMG Academy. He also got a 4-star linebacker, Shamar James, who got a lot of folks in Gainesville excited. As one headline that I read said, Billy Napier under-promised and over-delivered on his first signing day. Quick note on Kamari Wilson coming out of the IMG. He's a 5-star recruit. In his 4 years in Gainesville, Dan Mullen just twice signed a guy of that caliber. The Gators still have plenty of room and plenty of time to work on some of the big names still out there ahead of the regular signing day coming up in February. So good start for Billy Napier. Still a long way to go, but got some big names that maybe some people thought weren't possible a few days ago. Thanks to you guys again for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Make sure to check out the Ultimate College Football Playoff Preview. The most comprehensive college football playoff preview begins this Friday, looking at all the bowl games. So you definitely want to check that out. Coming up next, we will go around the conference. Look, you guys listen to podcasts for the power of the inside track. You switch to Boost Mobile for the power of saving money, because with Boost, you get the power of a free 5G phone so you can listen to the latest episodes of your favorite podcast and keep up with your favorite teams. The power of 3 unlimited data lines for $30 a month per line so your family can share all the insights. And the power of one of America's largest 5G networks so you can do it all at the speed of 5G. With all that money you're going to save and all that edge you will gain, just how powerful will you become? Switch to Boost Mobile and find out. You get a free Samsung Galaxy A32 5G when you switch to one of America's largest 5G networks. More power to save? Boost Mobile. Quick disclaimer, free phone limited to new customers and 1 per line. Additional restrictions apply. Offers, coverage not available everywhere or for all phones or networks. See boostmobile.com for more details. With the start of bowl season, of course, BetOnline is the place to go to get all your bets in. They've got you covered all throughout the bowl season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. And, of course, we got the college football playoff games coming, and BetOnline's got you covered for that. They're your number one spot for all sports action throughout the end of the year. Head on over to their website. You can use their updated desktop or mobile website. Sign up today and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, to receive your bonus. From football to basketball to UFC, don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, it is where the game starts. All right, roll along here. Locked On SEC. We recapped all of National Signing Day, but man, there was a lot of SEC news to jump into. So let's jump right into it. Let's go around the conference.
Boots out to the right. Takes the handoff. What a catch! Around the conference.
And we start in Tuscaloosa, a monster pickup for Alabama last night, as it was announced former 2020 All-American defensive back at LSU, Eli Ricks, is transferring to Alabama. Ricks is a former 5-star recruit. He had 4 interceptions in 2 seasons at Baton Rouge, benefited from being opposite Derek Stingley. He saw a lot more action, and he made the best of it. Should slide right in as a starter next season for the Tide. lock down one of those corner spots. After he entered the portal, Ricks was reportedly looking at 4 schools: Alabama, Ohio State, USC, and Georgia. He's from Southern Cal, so a lot of people thought, oh, USC makes sense. Lincoln Riley's there. Ohio State, there was rumors that maybe they had an NIL deal for him, but ultimately Nick Saban and the Tide went out. It is an embarrassment of riches for Alabama to add one of the best cover corners in all of college football. Ricks played in 6 of LSU's games this year before he was sidelined with injury. He picked off 4 passes last season in the mix and expects to be an early round selection in the 2023 NFL Draft. Go get yours. Certainly will make an immediate impact for the Tide. According to a report from Pete Thamel of Yahoo Sports, Florida quarterback Emory Jones is planning to enter the transfer portal, though he will play in the bowl game. Emory Jones led Florida this season in both passing and rushing, 19 touchdowns to go along with 700 yards rushing and over 2,500 yards passing. But fans for much of the year clamored to see Anthony Richardson. And much to their chagrin, former coach Dan Mullen continued to start Emory Jones. As Pete Thamel noted, Jones will have 2 years of eligibility remaining after he started 11 games this past year. Jones said he is willing to go anywhere in the country and is looking for a place that develops me and prepares me for the next level. So that's an interesting note. I mean, who out there has, coaches that can develop good quarterbacks, but also has an opening for a starting quarterback spot? Will be interesting to see who the suitors are for Emory Jones. But look, Emory had his moments this year. I mean, nearly beat Alabama down in the swamp, put up a lot of numbers in a lot of big games. Emory Jones is a good player, maybe inconsistent at times, but if he can tweak that, wherever he ends up next year, somebody's getting a really good quarterback. Let's see if he winds up in another SEC school or if he ends up somewhere else. Alabama, they're beginning their preparations for the college football playoff today, returning to the practice field. The Tide will face Cincinnati in 2 weeks at the Cotton Bowl with a trip to January 10th's national championship game on the line. And quick injury update: cornerbacks Josh Jobe and Jalen Armour-Davis dealing with injuries. Jobe had foot surgery, saw his chances of playing in the game placed in serious jeopardy, while Armour-Davis has been battling a hip injury. Nick Saban, talking with the media yesterday, said, I don't know what Jalen Armour-Davis's status will be, how much he'll be able to do in practice, where he will be physically. I know he wants to try to play in this game. Meanwhile, he said Josh Jobe has played with turf toe all year long, and it got to the point where it was very difficult for him to be able to practice. So he is very doubtful for the game. South Carolina, we mentioned, received 2 major boosts to their offense in the form of Spencer Rattler and Austin Stogner, big-time tight end. Lincoln Riley left Norman to take the job at USC. Caleb Williams emerged as the starter this year. And so Spencer Rattler was looking for a place to go. And Austin Stogner made a strong recruiting pitch to Rattler to come join him in the SEC and go to South Carolina. Talking with Paul Feinbaum yesterday, Shane Beamer said Stogner's dad reached out and Austin visited South Carolina and ended up talking to Spencer about how amazing a place it is and how all the resources that they have to win a championship, be successful at the highest level. Beamer said, and we started communicating with Spencer at that point. It happened pretty fast. Said he's excited about the next chapter of his football story. And one other South Carolina note: quarterback Jason Brown, who eventually took over as the team's starting quarterback down the stretch, he announced Wednesday morning he will enter the transfer portal. He will have 1 year of eligibility remaining. He threw for 700 yards while totaling 8 touchdowns and 6 interceptions in the 7 games he played. Started the final 4 contests of the regular season for the Gamecocks. But he is on the way out, and in comes Spencer Rattler. Let's see what he can do. Guy who was a Heisman favorite just before last season. See if he can regroup and add some dynamic quarterback play there at South Carolina. Thank you guys again for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Now go make your second listen. Check out the Locked On Bets podcast, your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q, with insight from Lee Sterling. It is free and available on all platforms. I am Chris Gordy. Thank you guys so much for listening to Locked On SEC. We'll be back tomorrow. Big-time interview. Going to join us, former Tennessee Volunteers wide receiver Velus Jones. You don't want to miss that. That'll be on tomorrow's show. Again, I'm Chris Gordy, Locked on SEC. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.